Hi everyone, and welcome to the Fireside Chat with Nima Abu Wardeh. She is a keynote speaker, advisory board at GSA University of Surrey, an award-winning ex-BBC World and Davos moderator, Master of Science, Biomedical Engineering, plus she has a decade plus of work in behavioral economics. She's also the founder of She Strategy, and that's how many of you know her from Women Tech Network Global Conference. And we had such a huge demand from our participants and community members to have this chat with Nima. Hi, Nima, and super excited to have you with us.
Hello, it's wonderful to be here. I love technology when it does this.
And I love your energy, and it's always great to see you. You're super positive and super smart, and we are looking forward to this great discussion with you. Hi everyone, I see many people are writing us in the chat. I will encourage you to use the chat to ask your questions to Nima at any point that you have. I will flick through the chat, and Kenana is saying that it's nice to see you on stage again. So people are joining who already participated, and they asked for more. And when, during the conference, when we were waiting for one of the speakers while she was joining, I asked people like, which talk did you like so far the most? And they were like, they remembered She Strategy, and like She Strategy. And at a certain point, like we understand that we need to do more in this direction and have a deeper conversation with you.
So by the way, please ask away. Just to add to your point, don't think, oh, I don't really want to embarrass myself for something. If you have something to say it.
Absolutely.
Just type it in there and say it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there are no like stupid questions, or there are no embarrassing questions. I think what is really stupid or embarrassing is when you don't ask the questions that you really want to ask, instead of asking something that you think will look good or sound good. So I encourage everyone to join us to ask their questions. And yeah, we'll flick through the chat. And hi everyone, people are joining, saying hi. Write us in the chat where you're joining from, and let's get started. So Nima, for those who are tuning in and they never heard about She Strategy, so tell us what it's all about. What is She Strategy all about?
Well, in a nutshell, it's passing on the skills, knowledge, and tools to be able to put your hand up, step up, speak up. Let me take a step back. You just mentioned that there's no such thing as a silly or stupid question, right? One of the reasons I created She Strategy was because I was chairing a 2-day event that was for women in this huge multinational company that had spent 2 years buying up all the competition, and they wanted to get more women into middle management and beyond. This company was one of the first signatories to the UN's He for She, for example. So, they said, right, we want more women at middle management and beyond. And I thought, brilliant. I chaired this event that was a 2-day event, and the majority of the women were silent, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's part of the reason why She exists, is this idea of, wait a minute, don't tell women to put their hand up, to step up, without passing on the skills and tools and knowledge to know how to do this and to do it well. There's a way to do this that is, it's the difference between freaking out and not sleeping because you're so stressed you've got to have a presentation, or having a really simple, rhythmic way of doing it so that you nail it. And you know what words to use and choose to suit the occasion. I mean, this is just one aspect of She. But just to finish that thought, my big wish, I suppose, is this. Look, most of us have to earn a living, right? I have to earn a living.
Everyone probably does, right?
So that's one thing. If you have to earn money to survive, then are you leaning into your earning potential when you are working? What do I mean by that? I mean this. If there's an opportunity, a project, a promotion, something to study, whatever that thing is, are you saying, that's mine, I'm going for that? Hand up, right? Me. Or are you saying, I'm not too sure. Oh, how do I fit it? How? Ooh, I'm not. Now, because we're human, and because of and I'm talking about averages here, a lot of women will say, I wish I could, but, and they get stuck and so on. So really, my big wish is that we make our decisions based on real information, meaning if I don't do this, what happens to me later in life? So financially, what happens to the majority of women and so on. But also, if I do want to do it, how can I sustain it? How can I keep my life happening so that I don't win something, get something, and then have to walk away later, right? So it's about creating what I call your brand of success, but being able to sustain it. That's key, sustaining it so that you don't die broke. It's really simple. There you go.
Wow, that's super cool. How did you come up with this strategy, and like how did you identify that women need it more than men? And maybe what is the main reason for women saying, I wish, I want, but what is the main reason for women to behave in this way, to think in this way?
Okay, so look, take again a step back. I want to make sure that everybody knows I believe that we are people first. So I happen to be a female, but I'm a person first.
Absolutely.
That's one. So when I look at big numbers and I look at averages and what tends to happen, there are certain things that come out, and we know this stuff. For example, we're roughly 50% of the world's population. In fact, more than 50% of graduates are female. So let's say 50-50, okay, to make it easy. So 50-50 go to the workplace and you rise, and then you get to a certain point and then the women vanish. Bing! I mean, where have they gone? You know, it's not like we disappear and poof into smoke. You know, we still exist, okay?
Yeah.
But if you look at the lay of the land for women in the workplace, there is a certain way that it is. The numbers are there, right? And it's middle management and beyond. That's where the pinch point starts. We know this. One, I am not interested in data if it doesn't enable me to do something with it and about it. This is key, okay? So data on its own, is it useful? It's useful when we do something with or about it. That's one thing. Two, companies spend a huge amount of money on data, research, studies, papers that they put out. And guess what? Nothing changes for women on the ground. So that's another thing that I started thinking, wait a minute, all these companies, these big brands, global, they come up with all this research, but nobody's doing stuff with it. Three, it's about daily life. So how can I enable women to stay on whatever they decide their path is in a way that they can sustain themselves, right? So that they don't hit a wall and have to leave at a certain point, which means that they either don't earn money or earn less, which means that they are either very poor later or broke. And with the COVID crisis, you know, women are the first in line to lose jobs, to leave jobs because they can't cope with the juggle and the struggle at home and kids and work, whatever that thing is. And so, in fact, what we're seeing with COVID is going to really make it a more acute and urgent situation to deal with, because I believe we're going to see what I call destitute than dead. Women who are going to be so poor towards the end of life and then they die. What a rubbish thing to look forward to, really, seriously. And so, you know, the answer to your question is, I believe I can do something about this. So I'm doing something about it. And why do I believe I can do something about it? Two things. One is I train people at the top of their game. So I train people who are CEOs and in governments and so on. They come and they say, we have something to say. It's really important. Can you help us do this? Now, if people at the top of their game have something to say and they can't figure out quite how to do it and they call upon people like me, women have something to say, right? Why am I not training and passing on these skills and tools to what I call the silent majority, the women? So important, one. Two, because of the work I've done around money and life and behavioral economics, there are so much data to do with women specifically that is disturbing, and that's a polite word, by the way, disturbing, yeah? That we only find out when it's too late, meaning it's happened. I can't change it. I can't earn any more money because I'm too, you know, I'm retired. Nobody doesn't. But so when it's too late, women realize these things. I'll give you one example. There's the crossover, right? So imagine you're a married woman. You depend on your partner in life for making ends meet because you've taken time off or because you're part-timing, right? So just at that point when women are most financially dependent on a life partner, guess what happens? That coincides with the most likely phase of divorce, which then means that these women who've been out of the workplace, more dependent, more vulnerable, are left then to go back and scramble as they try to figure out life and earning and income. I mean, this is one example. There's a whole slew of life and data. One thing to quickly mention, this is not about having children. It is about being female and acting as a carer at some point in life. It could be to your parents, to a partner, becoming an expat partner, or having young children and taking time off work. So it's the idea that women are the ones who usually leave work, stop work, or part-time at some time. Over to you.
So what women should do in this situation to avoid being in this position, like, you know, to become dependent on their partner, for example?
Okay, so I mean, look, in an ideal world, if you have a partner, you can fully trust that partner and you have a wonderful life and everything's perfect. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works out, right? Some people never have a partner, or they get divorced, or somebody dies. I mean, things happen, life happens. So from my perspective, it is about saying, I want to have what I call a dignity fund, okay? Meaning, if something goes terribly wrong, it could be that the workplace is terrible, that you can't take it, you've got to leave that place. It could be your marriage is falling apart. It could be your parent gets really ill and they need you, so you need to take time. Whatever that reason is, it's about choice and dignity. So really what we can do about it is say, okay, this is the most likely trajectory. Maybe it'll never happen to me. Fine. Therefore, live beneath your earning power, meaning it's not live within what you earn. You need to live beneath what you earn. So you actually have money that you keep in your life. It's that idea of how do I deal with money? What's my relationship with it? That's one thing. That's a whole different conversation. And it's not what the She strategy is about, by the way. But it's more a case for me of, okay, so if I have to earn to live, if I have to earn and make money because nobody's paying my way, or right now I have help from a partner or family member, but at some point I'm going to be on my own, most likely, right? Then how do I start thinking about my earning potential and what I'm doing now to lean into it? It's a really simple concept, but challenging, because it means if you are going to lean into your earning potential, you have to be really comfortable with showcasing your brilliance, with going for opportunity, with negotiating for your sustainability, and all these other things. Other people call it confidence. I don't like that word. I don't use it.
What do you use?
I use the word, my C word. What's your C word? My C word is for comfort. It's to be comfortable in your own skin.
Interesting.
With yourself, with what you're wearing, and with how you are. To be comfortable.
Comfortable.
Because, for me, that's, the word confidence is used as a stick to hit women over the head with on occasion. So, again, it's like, oh, she's not confident. How do you define that? It's an illusion.
How do you define that?
So, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, well, very interesting what you mentioned about the confidence. Like, it's interesting. I like that dignity fund. That sounds interesting. Absolutely. So you mentioned that, like, on your website, I read that 80% of women are 80% more likely to be poor at the age of 65. So we've discussed briefly. And so how do you think we can also, like, people, organizations close the gender pay gap, for example, to avoid, this thing of, so women would, like, have at least the same, because I think it also contributes towards women actually, if they paid less than men, and like dramatically less, not just a bit less. And how do women in general can, like, ask for what they deserve, or, like, is it their own organization that they work at if they don't get equally paid as men, for example?
So, these are all every single thing you're saying is such an important issue, and it's about us diving deep into them as opposed to skimming the surface. If you look at the media, I mean, I'm media, so, it's always about the headline, skim the surface, keywords that are used over and over again, like the gender pay gap. What do we know the gender pay gap to be? What is it? We are told that the pay gap is 80%, so that women earn 80 cents to the man's dollar. That's what we're
Right.
told. That's what the media says, right? I'm more interested in taking a step away again and defining things. You know, when we define things, things change because we figure out what the reality is and what we can do about it. So, one, the gender pay gap. What does it mean when they say it's 80%? This is what they mean. People go in to an organization, they collect data, but it's only data to do with people at work at that point. Meaning, if you're a woman or a person who has taken time off work, you're not part of that data collection, okay? Mm-hmm. So the gender pay gap that we are told is 80% is only relevant to the data that is collected for people who are at work in employment at that point in time. This is hugely significant because, one, it means that people who are working are paid less because of their gender, which is discriminatory, terrible, unbelievable. What? How come this is still happening? So that's one. Two, if you look at the lay of the land again, it is usually the woman who takes time off. So there's a difference between what I earn when I'm at work and what my life's earnings are, right? And what I encourage women to do is to start thinking about over the course of their lifetime, what is that? That's a key thing, because that's the thing that's going to tell you if you're most likely going to be okay later in life or not, for example. Now, there's something called the Household Panel Study. It is the world's longest and still ongoing study in the world. It started in 1968 with, I think it's 8,000 people, if I'm not mistaken. 8,000 or 10,000, one of them, I can't remember. And it's going on with them and all of their descendants. So these are huge numbers, okay? And they did a 15-year look at earnings. So over the course of 15 years, what are the real earnings of women compared to men? So not projections and predictions, and not a spot check. So what that means is it's real life. Some will be full-time, some will be part-time, some will take time off, some will not take time off. So it reflects reality. And the reality is, are you ready for this? Women earn on average 49% of a man's wage. I'll say that again. Women earn on average 49% of a man's wage. There's only one reason that this happens, and the reason is that some of them take some time off at some point, right? It's that idea of taking time off. Again, could be children, could be parents, could be partner, could be they get ill. Whatever the reason is, that's the deciding factor. So really, you know, from my perspective, it's not about harping on about the 80%, which is terrible. The bigger change comes about from enabling women to sustain their success. Meaning, if you have a career that you love, if you have an ambition that you want to go for, your place of work, your industry, your career, ideally should enable you to stay on your path throughout the pipeline of life. You know how they talk about the pipeline at work? The pipeline at work. We have women coming in and then they get stuck in the middle and then very few at the top, that work pipeline. When I look at the life pipeline, okay, and phases of life change, our needs and wants change, a great place to work is a place that embraces women and their needs and wants throughout their phases of life. What I want to see is what I call the R number. You know, we're hearing about the R number in terms of COVID. Well, my R number is retention. How many people look at retention rates? So, for example, if I was going to be asking for a job or being interviewed, remember, women, you are interviewing them as well as them interviewing you. This is a really important thing. Okay?
Yeah, it's two-sided. Absolutely.
And I would encourage you to say, what is your retention rate for females? Find out. That is such a huge and important issue, because it means if a female is having a child, a sick parent or whatever, it enables them to come back and still stay employed. Yeah, very important.
Yeah, I think someone at our event was having these questions, like, which questions to ask during the interview? But they always tell me, like, do you have any questions for us? And they're like, not often sure, like those especially who are like starting like in their career, and they like, and what you are sharing is actually to ask these questions. Maybe some other tips also that you can share with us, which what are like some good questions to ask during an interview with the hiring manager.
I mean, personally, look, everybody's life is different and everybody's life is unique. And let's be really honest. If you are somebody who is desperate for that job, you don't really care. All you want is to know, I'm going to have an income next month. I'm going to be able to put food on the table or whatever. So, that's a very, again, the issue of choice and dignity and all that stuff, it is a lower priority, right? So it depends on where you're at. But if you're somebody who is able to have a peer-to-peer conversation, you want me, do I want you, that approach kind of thing, then it's a very different dialogue. And it is about saying things like, for example, one of the things that I do in She Strategy is that I pass on the skills, tools, knowledge of, so how do I choose the words, all the stuff that people panic about, but more importantly for me is, how am I going to be when I say and do these things? Because what we call presence, your presence, is actually so important that people make decisions and judgments about you before you even open your mouth, right? When you make a speech or you talk or you're at a meeting chairing it, the actual words aren't remembered. It's the way you were and the feeling that you gave. And they'll remember 2 or 3 words, right? So my point is, it's about having, ideally, if you could, it's about having what I call these core skills for life. The core skills of knowing, how am I going to be when I go into this situation? 1, 2, where am I headed towards now? So taking stock of where you're at and where you want to be next. Is this organization going to encourage that, enable that, be part of that? So I believe it's important to say this if you are in the privileged position of it being an equal relationship. You want me and I want to see if I want you kind of thing, yeah? To discuss what is next for you, as well as the current situation of where you're at, yeah? Because what's next, it might not happen for years. It might never happen. Maybe you change your mind, right?
Yeah.
But it's important to have to feel safe enough, I believe, to disclose certain things about yourself and your ambition and aspiration, right? So being a safe place to work is actually more important for me than a lot of other things, because to be safe means that you can discuss really important, sometimes personal stuff too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not only about what you wanted. Like it's very important to be like open, and so then you can grow. It's not like you say, okay, maybe you say, I don't know right now, but this is a job that I want right now. I later will figure out, but that's what I'm going to do. And like, you should see also, a hiring manager should see whether there is a match right now or later, whether this is a company that can help you grow later. So that's, I think feeling safe is so important. So you can be honest and open and like being yourself with the person and in the companies that you're working. So then you can realize that your potential actually, right?
Because it's not just about potential though. It's the idea of life happens. So in other words, imagine you get really sick or somebody close to you, something happens. And the ability to self-disclose, to feel safe enough to do that, is the difference between you having sleepless nights, getting stressed out of your wits, becoming very ill yourself, or being fired even because what's wrong with this person? They're, they're a bit freaky at the moment, not delivering, missing deadlines, because there's something else going on. Now, if you can self-disclose, you feel safe enough to do that, you very quickly discover whether this place of work and your colleagues are people who will support you, gather around you, or it's the wrong place for you. You need to get out as quickly as you can, bearing in mind your circumstance, right? So they talk about trust, for example, trust and leadership and blah, blah, blah. And I just have a 4-letter word, which is, are you safe? SAFE. Are you safe to talk about your real needs and wants, your real concerns, your reality at work and at life? Now, somebody in the messages I just saw here, Joe Richards, you're saying, why is this 49% figure not shared more openly in the media? You know what? People just don't know. Okay, I'll take a step back. I've spent over a decade drilling down into money and life and behavioral economics and that sort of thing, because I just thought to myself, wait a minute, we're all working to earn, right? Because we have to. But what's our relationship with this money? How are we behaving with it? That's a huge thing, but that's for another discussion. 2, what actually happens to us? Do we end up poorer as females? Do we end up, what are these really important points in life where we need to be very alert to and aware of stuff? Because nobody tells us these things, right? So I started really diving into it. And this is called the Household Panel Study. Please get in touch with me if you want to find out more, Joe. It's a fascinating, it's huge data. Nobody does anything with it. It's like a tiny little headline that is used when they have a study to publish, okay? And nobody picks it up. But the other thing is this, even if they did pick it up, it's about making it relevant to the situation. So it's about data, looking at it, figuring out why it's important, how it's relevant, and then putting it into context so that people around you get why this is important, why it's relevant, why they need to take note of it, but more importantly, what they can do about it. Nobody, and I've really looked at this, nobody's doing this. This is actually why I created She Strategy, right? Because nobody's doing this. Nobody's telling women, us, look, this is most likely what's going to happen to you. Look, this is most likely when you're going to be really broke. Look, if you want this to happen, you need to do these things. I'll give you an example. So imagine this. You are a high earner. I think I used this example during your conference, so forgive me if you know it, but it's important. I think
some people who are tuning in, they don't know it, or some maybe didn't see your session, so it would be interesting for them. Yeah.
So imagine you are a high earner. You are earning $110,000 at age 25. Woohoo! Okay. You and a male counterpart, because you're an IT whiz, okay? You and a male counterpart, you enter the workplace at the same time, same age, same salary. So this is to your point, Anna, which is the incremental increases that are different for men and women, okay? At the end of the working life, so when retirement comes, this woman, these are UBS figures, by the way, and let's call them Jane and Joe. Jane has earned a certain amount of money. She started at the same time as Joe, on the same salary as Joe. She stayed leaning in, didn't take time off work. Anybody want to guess how much less she has earned over her lifetime compared to Joe? Anybody? So $100,000 less, $500,000 less, $800,000 less. What do you think? You can see the comments, can't you, Anna?
Yeah. I can see the comments. So if everyone who's listening to us, what are your guesses? I know. Like, try it out.
100,000 less, 800,000 less. What do you think? What did she earn less?
I would check also right now.
Because, by the way, she did earn less, yeah? I mean, that's a good one, okay?
I think that's probably what is obvious. No one yet is writing.
Okay. So, I mean, just for you to know, the gap in wages actually is bigger the higher up you go. So the more, if you're a high earner, the gender pay gap is actually bigger than if you are a low earner. That's one thing. 2, I'll answer the question. It's $800,000. Jane has an $800,000 hole in her earnings, right? It's missing.
Crazy.
Why? She started the same age and pay as Joe. Why? One reason. The incremental increases along the way were slightly less than Joe's. That's all it takes. And so the trajectory, that
crazy
is less. And that stinks, let's be honest. That is actually not okay. Out of order.
Course.
Women will live longer. Women are in more need of medical and health care as a result. So this is it, right? I actually wrote a poem called My Purse is in Pain. Okay, I'm not going to get out at some point.
Do you want to recite it?
Well, really, it's insane. My purse is in pain, and it's because, wait a minute, so the women earn less, they live longer, they have more healthcare and medical needs, and this is the clincher, things cost them more.
Yeah, like
Even dry cleaning costs a woman more. It's insane. It's really
I think there was also a study when, like, for the same shampoo brand for female and for male, it's different totally price. Like, it will be more expensive for women than for men. The same brand, like more or less the same target of hair, and it's like, yeah, because women like buy more and the things cost more. What you say, like they need more also. Like,
but even things like making something pink, like a scooter, it actually it's called pink tax sometimes, so again, all these things, the data is there, nobody's screaming about this, it's quite shocking. It's just like, oh well, and part of that is because people are so busy just, I think, getting on with life, and usually it is for the female trying to deal with the home life, the work life, again, I'm generalizing here, but it is about the general big numbers. It's not about the one woman who makes it and the 100 that don't. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
So yeah.
Someone is saying my purse is in peace. Well, this is great. I mean, we need more women's purses to be in peace. But the reality that for many women, of course, this is what you're sharing. Like, it's really eye-opening, and it's sad to the extent that, and women should do something about it earlier than before they 65 and they find themselves broke, as you said. So there was one.
But sorry, just to say, but this is the idea again that women or a person should, right? It's the word that we use a lot. And again, I sat down and thought about this. The word should can be quite, for me, dangerous because it implies that somebody knew something and they deliberately didn't do the right thing for them. Do you see? Whereas actually the reality is that very few people know what happens with the trajectory of money and life, and how seemingly innocent decisions made because it's in keeping with their values, or because they can't cope, something has to change, otherwise they're going to break. I'll give you an example. Not going for a high-powered job, not going for a promotion, not negotiating a salary increase, all these things. Taking time off work because you've had your third child or because your parent has got cancer. These things are part of everyday life for so many, for the majority actually, okay? So I don't blame the women. This is the big thing. It is actually, for me, it's a cultural thing that needs to change. There's something called agnotology. Agnotology is, to be simple, it means cultural ignorance, meaning that we are ignorant about certain things due to just the way things are. Part of that is the agnotology around women, money, and life. So that when you take a year off work as a female, for whatever reason, you don't just lose the income from that year, you lose the equivalent of 3 to 4 years of your lifetime income. Why? Because of the incremental increases that you lose out on because of that lost year, because of any tax perks or any other perks that you've lost out on because of that year. Who tells us this? Nobody.
No one.
Yeah. And so, for me, I was very, very deliberate in creating She Strategy because it is practical, it is enabling, it is a guide, it's literally a toolbox. Oh, I've got something to say. How do I do that? How do I figure out what it is to suit the occasion in my private life, at my work life, where I'm headed? Because one, women are, the studies are all there. Women are more stressed than men. Women process stress physiologically in a different way to the way men do. And I'm just fed up with hearing that women should do something when they don't have the tools to how to do it, right? So that's a huge thing. And that's part of my mission, I suppose, which is, here you go. Let me take some of the stress away. This is a toolbox. It'll help and guide you. Yeah, it's a resource. And it's not just about these tools. Doing these things enables you to have a better chance of not dying broke.
Right. One of the questions on LinkedIn when I shared about the chat with you was like, what are the main like components of success? And answered, and I'd like you to share more on that for those who didn't see the comment, because I think many are like wondering probably, how do you define success, right?
Yeah, it's a really so I encourage actually everybody to define the words that they use in everyday language, even because it's through defining these words that we realize what they actually mean and how we feel about it and how we could behave about it or with regard to it as well. Success. What is success? You know what? Success is whatever you believe it is for you. For example, for some people, success is the corner office. I want that. I want to be the big boss. Success is starting their own business. Other people's success is knowing how to grow your own vegetables and earn enough money, not to worry, but to be able to see the stars in the sky every night, that kind of thing. That is their success, because that is what their best life is, right? One, you need to define what it is for you, because your life is unique to you. That's one. Two, it will change as your phases of life change. Success is going to be different when you are 20 to when you are 50 and so on. And all, till the end of life, basically. So it'll change. So it is about revisiting that. And I say it's about being deliberate about what you will and will not do. An example is, how many people say, oh, I missed out on my children growing up. Oh, I missed out on my best friend's wedding. Oh, so what is important to you? Make that a solid commitment in your calendar or something, put it down. If that's important to you, see it, say it, have it visibly there, and then factor it into your decision-making process, right? That's the kind of thing that, for me, is what success is all about. And not going with somebody else's definition of what success is, right? That's a huge thing. But again, it's very challenging for some people, yeah? They don't feel comfortable enough, back to the word comfort, to say, actually, no, that is not my success. That's your success or society's success, not mine.
How to separate, how to discover that what is your inner definition of success, because so many messages out there, like how to become successful post, like this is like how, like what you see on media, what could be like how to not get lost in defining what actually success means for you. What is maybe some advice from you?
You know what? I think this era of lockdown and COVID has enabled many to do this in a different way to before COVID, because I think, so many people were just literally on the hamster wheel, running to stay still, right? Running to stay still. Lockdown happened, huge change, but more importantly, it's the mental approach towards things. Some people have lost loved ones, right? Some people have fallen apart themselves because they realized, one, they're not in control of their life. Two, maybe they lost their job and their income, so they're in trouble financially. But three, and this is to answer your question about this situation, they realize that, wait a minute, all the things that I thought were important are actually not important to me. So from my perspective, years ago, I coined a phrase for myself, and it is this. You may use it. I need to be still to move forward, right? I need to be still to move forward. So it's contradictory, right? But actually, it's really the essence of, I believe, what we must do in order to find the answer to your question, which is, what is your success? If you sit with yourself, I sound like a, but sit with yourself. I don't know, keep a diary, have a conversation. I talk to myself out loud every day. It's great. Okay, I encourage it.
I talk to myself out loud sometimes as well.
Great, isn't it? Yeah. But more importantly, start noticing what I call your daily joy. So the word happy, I don't like to use, because it's, again, an elusive, oh, I'm going to be happy. What does that mean? Like you chase it, and what does that mean? And what is it anyway? But joy is different. You can build joy into your life. I'll give you an example. Getting on my bike gives me daily joy. Seeing greenery, daily joy. Having something yummy to eat, daily joy. Break it down to that kind of thing. And Notice what gives you daily joy. Have 5 things that you can achieve or tick off a box, tick the boxes for every day. If your work and your career and your grind doesn't either give that to you or serve your daily joy, and what I mean is this: imagine you're in a train and a plane 5 days a week, 7 days a week, so you don't get to ride your bike, say. Sometimes you can't ride your bike every day, but on average, over the course of 7 days, say you want to be able to do it 3 days a week, let's say, yeah? If your life doesn't allow you that, doesn't enable you to do that, then really, is that success? Is it? Is it success? I personally don't think so. It's about drilling down what gives you your daily dose of joy. You don't always get that dose every day, but on average, over a week or a month, there are more days that you get it than days you don't. If the way you live and what you do for a living doesn't enable you to be and have and enjoy that, I believe that that isn't your success, right?
Yeah, can you call yourself a successful person in your definition if you don't have these daily joys, right?
Yeah, well, that's what I think. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's an interesting perspective, and I think it can help people to get closer to how to make this, to carve this definition for them, what success means. Another question is there such a thing as work-life balance for women? We also see, these articles like how to find work-life balance. You can find work-life balance like this, like that. So is there such a thing as work-life balance? And if there is, how can women achieve so? Because I think they are the ones who are struggling the most.
Yes. And again, look, it's interesting because I've never looked at myself as a woman first. I've always seen myself as a person first, and I just happen to be a woman. However, when you look at the numbers, you see that, oh my goodness, the number of women struggling, breaking, they end up in poverty because they can't keep the juggle up, because they break and something has to give. Yeah. So they have to leave work, take part-time, whatever that thing is. So balance. Okay, so this is my personal take on balance, okay? It's about averaging things out. For example, so my P's are person, parent, pupil, yeah? And each day I figure out which takes priority, okay? So person, parent, pupil, priority, another really important P. What I mean is this. You need to, again, just like you define your daily joy, it's part of your daily joy. What are you about? What is that thing? And it's about not being able, wow, if you could do every single thing you want to do every single day, then how do you do it? But it's about averaging out. So sometimes I'm not a good parent. Yeah. But the number of days that I am a good parent, she says, are more than the number of days I'm not a good parent.
That's good news, right?
You know what I mean? But again, it's about how you define not a good parent. So, for example, in pre-COVID era, I travel with work. So for me, it would really be challenging for me to have to get on a plane, to go away, to spend the night away. That's not my best life, okay? But there are certain reasons that I did a certain amount of it. So that's what I mean by not a great parent. Could be that I was away for the night because I was in a different country delivering something, okay?
Yeah.
So it's about you saying, forgiving yourself, be kind to yourself. It's such an important thing.
Yeah.
For us as women to be kind. Don't beat yourself up about everything. Sometimes things won't work out the way you would love them to. That's 1. 2, just as we said, daily joy, your balance is about averaging things out. It's not always a daily thing. However, I do believe that there are certain things that are non-negotiable every day. For example, do you brush your teeth every day? Pretty much most people do, yeah, I would say. So for me, a non-negotiable is, provided that the weather is, bearable, meaning that it's not 50 degrees outside and it's go out and be physical. And I mean, it could be just a 20-minute walk or a something, do jumping jacks at the front door. It doesn't matter what it is, but it is about that thing of using your body and being physical. So important. That is a non-negotiable. So that's part of your balance, because it's the physical, the emotional, the psychological, the, earning, all these things. I believe there is no such thing as absolute balance, meaning there are certain times, if you're writing a book, you're going to be leaning into writing that book at the expense of everything else, right?
Yeah.
If you're doing a PhD, that's going to be you're leaning into that. If you are starting a business, you're leaning into that. If you have a very young baby, you're leaning into that, you know, at certain point.
That makes sense.
So it's not about this thing of beating yourself up again. It's about saying, my balance is to maybe look at your calendar of life, the calendar of life. I'm making this up, by the way. That's a good one, right? And saying, okay, this is my balance in this phase of life. This is my balance in that phase of life. This is my balance in the summer, and this is my balance in the winter, because again, it changes. But if you figure out your daily joy and you can still tick the box, oh, outside, tick, oh, something yummy, tick, you know, sing every day, tick, whatever that thing is, talk to myself, tick, whatever that thing is, yeah, that becomes part of your balance.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds fantastic. Like that.
Let's make it happen. You know what's a really important thing, actually, and this is something I thought to myself, you know, if people were to leave this with one thought, it is this. We know so much, right? Hooray! Who cares if you don't do something with it?
Yeah,
that's the thing, right?
True. It's I think right now we're also overwhelmed with so many like influencers, like so many like motivational coaches, advice, and so it's like very hard to filter and to listen to your inner voice and like what you just shared, like define your success, focus on daily joys, like focus on different things, and like you sometimes need to take time off to really process that and then find some inner peace with yourself, and then just start and do things. Yeah. Here we have many questions already in the chat, and I just don't want people to,
go ahead.
you know, that we have, a question from Sarah. How do we make the process of doing the right things sustainable?
Well, first of all, what is the right thing? I mean, you know, it's about, you know, my big thing is this. I encourage everybody to, one, define what you're talking about to yourself. I mean, it's about defining it with yourself, okay? Because that's when you realize, actually, I don't really understand this, or you realize that the words you're using mean something different to the words somebody else, to the way somebody else uses that word. And this is the cause of huge issues. You know, you could use one word like success or the right thing, you know. The language is so loose sometimes. Be specific and precise, right? Define what you're talking about with yourself. Define it for yourself, but define it when you're talking to others as well, so that you make sure that you are on the same page. It's such an important thing. I think that's the first thing for you to do. It's about defining the words that you're using. And by defining it, the answer sort of comes out in its own way, if that makes sense. Because if you say, my success is this, my right thing to do is that, so you've defined it. And then that's the answer. It just told you. The definition told you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So define, what does it mean for you?
Yeah.
Here another question: How do you define culture? What culture is for? Its strategy for breakfast.
So, but what culture are we talking about? Are we talking about corporate or society?
Yeah, they're different. So, Chaitali, what culture are you talking about? If you're here, if you can hear us, could you please provide more details?
But also go back to the point of defining. You see, this is really why the word.
How do you define the culture?
It's about what are you defining culture to be, right? But more importantly, I think it's this. One day, a long time ago, somebody made a definition and a decision. They decided this is the way this is going to work. This is what this is going to be called. This is what this means, okay? Why am I saying this? Because give yourself the freedom, the right to actually come up with your own culture and definitions and define what you are about and where you're headed and how it's going to happen. Don't go to the default mode of what has always been done. Very dangerous, I find. And, you know, life ends. And then what?
Yeah, true. Here's a question from Noor. Many people discourage me for being a petroleum engineer. How can I prove them all wrong?
Are they family people, or are they people, like who is this? Who are these people?
Probably a mix of people. Noor, if you are here, can provide more details, but I assume if she says many, probably it's coming not just from one side. So we can.
I mean, who knows? We assume. So again, finding it very important. Look, I believe that the personally, my belief is that the best thing you can do is to live well. Okay. So again, it's about you and what you are doing with your life. It's difficult. I really do understand this. If you are living in a culture, a society, family, perhaps that's very, tight knit, and it's a big challenge, because I know this for a fact. Some women, if they go against that culture and the way things have always been done, they risk being ostracized. Like they're kicked out of that society or that whatever it is. So it's difficult. But at the end of the day, there's a thing in my kitchen, and it's I can't remember what it says actually, but it says something like, the right thing to do can also be the most difficult decision you ever have to make, So it is about you defining what is right for you. It could be that the person who is saying you shouldn't do this is so important to you, and you don't want to go against them, but then you make peace with that. That's your choice and decision, okay? Or you say, no, this is my life. I am going to do this. I would love you to be part of my life, but if you can't accept me for what I am doing, goodbye. That's why it's so important for you to define what your success is, because it could be that success equals community for you, your family. It could be success equals my independence, my choice. So you have to define what success is for you first, and the rest will follow.
Yeah, absolutely. And coming back to our question with culture, so Chaitali provided more, she says more like on corporate culture. So how do you define corporate culture, and what culture eats strategy for breakfast?
Look, again, strategy? Look, it's the idea that if you have a great corporate culture, this is the thinking, if you have a great corporate culture, which if we go back to the idea of being safe and able to talk about things and disclose and, have that teamwork and camaraderie and whatever else, trust. If you have that, then that is more important than having a killer strategy, because if you can have a killer strategy, but there's nobody there to implement it, or nobody trusts anyone, it's not going to last very long, for example. But really, I don't know the purpose of your question. I think that's the big question. Is it to understand what corporate culture is about, or is it to understand whether it's important or not? Personally, I think the culture of a place, well, again, this word culture, let's define it. What does it mean? From my perspective, it's more important to say things like, do I trust these people? Do I feel safe in this place? Safe enough to talk about maybe a personal problem that's happening, that's holding me back, that's causing a lot of stress and anxiety? Do I feel safe enough to know that they will do the right thing by me if they have to downsize, fire people, that they won't, So for me, that is actually the most important thing, because we all understand very well that, for example, some companies will go under, but lots of companies have gone under with this whole crisis. So it's about how will your colleagues, your bosses, tell you about key information. I'll give you an example. This happened at the beginning of COVID, and I know this for a fact. A gentleman owns his own company, very successful, had a virtual meeting with his staff, who was telling them all about, well, first of all, he fired them all because he out, but it was done in a very specific way. And then he went on to tell them about the new house he was building. This is all in the same meeting, okay? So it's like, what is going on here? Where's the empathy? It's this weirdness of opposing things. He's okay. He's building a house. He's got a great thing going on, but he's just fired everybody. He's not actually asking anybody, for input and how to make this happen in a less severe way. So again, I wouldn't want to work with that person, because the person's culture, the culture of the company, which is him, is not, I find, somewhere pleasant or something pleasant or reasonable or humane. So really it depends on how you define what it is that you're talking about and why. What's the purpose? For me, go back to the basics. Do you feel safe? Do you feel you can trust? Do you feel that you can self-disclose? Self-disclose about personal things, about things, struggles, whatever that thing is. If you can do that, then wow, that is hugely important.
Yeah, absolutely. What kind of advice can you give to someone who is entering a male-dominated profession, for young women who are entering male-dominated profession, like tech? Probably, I assume, as we're women in tech. But
so,
yeah,
this is such a loaded question, right? Again, I don't know you. I don't know what it is that you are maybe struggling with or challenged by. I'll tell you that from my perspective, and I'll be just very, set my benchmark out there, which is this: I'm a person first. So I've never, I'll give you examples. I mean, for example, I was the only female on my master's course. All men, fine. But I didn't realize this until now. I just went through it. I've been the only woman, actually, for the majority of my working life. I've been the only woman. And it is just the way it is. And because I realized this, and I thought, wait a minute, how come? I created She Strategy because I want more women to be alongside these men who are at the top of their career, okay? If you are in a male-dominated industry, it really depends on, one, what it is that you are challenged by and struggling with. Meaning, do you feel, oh, they're looking at me in a weird way, for example? I mean, these things happen. Do you feel they are not listening to you when you speak? So again, define what it is that you are challenged by. If you are in the right place, in the right company, you will be able to go and have a conversation, a very difficult conversation, right? But maybe not with somebody in HR, but a colleague that you feel you can disclose things with, that kind of thing. But really, I'm against this idea of, I will prove them wrong, this kind of thing. No, wait a minute. I'm a person like you. Why should I spend my life nailing things, proving somebody wrong, going for the next thing? No. We are equal. We are equal. I think it comes from this. If you genuinely believe that you are equal, yeah, it'll leak out. Other people will pick up on it. It'll just be the way it is. If you do not have that, and by the way, many, many women use the words, I am equal, but they don't behave it. So for me, this is what I mean by the game change difference. It's not about that big, do this, do that, shake hands with a firm handshake. I mean, I'll give you two examples. There was a woman in Canada and there's a woman in Europe. Both of them very high up and big achievers. And just in the last 2 months, this has happened in the last few weeks, two of them came, they don't know each other independently, and they have said exactly this to me. I'm in a very male-dominated environment. What can I do? One of them decided that she was going to wear shoulder,
yeah, I got it.
And
for the clothes,
more masculine in her clothing and
posture,
so on.
Right?
Yeah, and the shaking of the hand and that sort of thing. There are women who are like that. I mean, gosh, I used to be like that. Okay, very androgynous, extremely androgynous. Can you believe it? And if that's the way you are at that point in life, embrace it, be it. But to put on somebody else's clothes, literally, it goes back to the comfort. This is why the word comfortable is so important. It's about being comfortable with who you are, with what you do, with how you do it, with what you're wearing, with how you're behaving, with your place in that place. It is such an important word, to be comfortable. You are equal. Don't forget, you are equal. You need to behave it. Yeah? Absolutely. But by the way, if somebody's giving you a hassle, let's be real. If somebody's giving you a hassle, you call them out. That is not okay. But again, it's about the way you do it. You're not asking for a fight, but you are drawing a line. Boundaries are so important. You have to have boundaries for yourself, meaning I'm going to respect my own body and not stay up till 2 a.m. on the blinking laptop working anymore. That's a boundary for your own sustainability. Or a boundary where somebody else, actually, that's not how I do things. It's not how my behavior isn't that. So you draw boundaries. Or it could be a workplace boundary. You've got an issue, a child, a parent who needs you, and you decide you are not going to travel for work for the first year of your child's life, for example. So that's a boundary that you set. Boundaries do two things. They either enable you to sustain your sanity and therefore your success, right? Or they hold you back. We all have universal boundaries and limits: time, energy, money, right? These are limits. But the other stuff, some of it is stuff that we do for ourselves, which helps us stay on our path. Other stuff we do to ourselves that holds us back, right? So with your male place, start a conversation. Feel safe. If you don't feel safe, I would say just leave, or have a really serious, open conversation with HR and top management. And then if nothing happens, leave. No, your life is more important. Your daily life is so important. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. One maybe final piece of advice that you'd like to share with our listeners. Some people have more questions. So my question is, what is the best way to get in touch with you? LinkedIn or your...
Yeah, probably LinkedIn, just because, my LinkedIn profile. Just message me or get in touch. Well, I'll get back to you.
Because I see some people have some more questions, and also we have
Give me a quick rundown, just a rundown question. What are they? Just one word.
So how can women ask for days off without feeling guilty each month? Then there was like a more description details to the question about male-dominated world and how people, like something about learning the new skills and not feeling tired each time. Yes, these are some of the questions that I just saw in the chat, and absolutely.
Two things, right? One is, if we go back to basics and break down everything that has just been spoken about and those questions, for example, what it boils down to is this: you have something to say. How do you say it? That's really what this is all about, whether it's the male-dominated workplace, whether it's the time off work each month, whether it's the something, right? It's you have something to say. How do you say it? Seriously, it's about knowing how the brain works, what makes us notice things, why do some people get chosen and noticed and remembered and not others? How do you get buy-in from whoever it is that you are speaking with, whether it's at home, whether it's your boss, whether it's your colleague? This is really, it sounds like I'm doing a sales job, but I'm genuinely, this is what the She Strategy is about. It's about how do you get across what you want, need, and do in a way that is remembered, that resonates, that is relevant, so you get buy-in. What do I mean? So that things change, so that you can sustain your working life, your whatever it is that you are doing. So important. If there's one thing I want you to walk away from this with, it is this. That's what I was saying about we know so much. You know so much about so many things. It's about doing something about it. I'm calling it the DIY moment. Do it yourself. Seriously.
Do it yourself.
Go and read another book. Don't go and enroll.
Experience is the best.
Do it. What's the it? Define it and blinking do it.
And like you can learn best by doing yourself rather than learning from others. And absolutely. Thank you very much, Nima. And everyone who is joining us on Hopin, you can benefit from the network. And Nima, if you also have time, you can go also to the network and then connect with some of our participants. And thank you very much for this super interesting, insightful conversation. I took some notes and learned a lot from you. And I think our audience also got super inspired and learned from you. Let's give a virtual clap to Nima, and thanks a lot for tuning in and joining us. And I'm looking forward to doing more events with you. I know you're also working on your podcast, we are looking forward to that.
It's called my prodcast.
Broadcast,
prodding you, probing and prodding you, right? And sometimes taking you by the shoulders to say, listen, you know stuff. It's it's getting to know stuff, and then moving from knowing to doing something about it, right?
Yeah.
Deal?
Absolutely.
I'll if you connect with me, I'll let you know when they come out and stuff. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Nima,
Take
and
care.
wishing you a great day. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye, and thank you. You're amazing. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye,
Bye
everybody.
bye. So thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you found it very interesting and useful. I personally took some notes, and my main takeaways is to find a daily joys, things that brings us joy, and not compromise them, and do the things that we love more, and find time for our people, and define success, that what it means for you. And thanks a lot for your questions. We are going to have more fireside chats like this. And follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and we will see updates. And let us know, maybe there are some people that you'd like us to invite to join for our series of fireside chats. Let us know. And I encourage you to go to the networking area. You can see it here if you're on Hopin. You can go to the networking area and do networking. Nima is also going to be there. Thank you very much again. And if you have more questions to her, you can. We just shared here the link to her profile, so you can connect with her and ask your questions. Thank you very much, and wishing you a great day. Bye bye.